You think you're far from God, but what if you're not far, just distracted? There are people watching this right now who still pray, who still believe, who still want to feel close to God again, but something feels off, not broken, not gone, just distant. And the truth is, it didn't happen all at once. You didn't wake up one day and decide to walk away from God. It was subtle. A little less time in His presence, a little more time on your phone, a little more noise, a little less silence. And slowly, without even realizing it, your focus shifted, not because you stopped loving God, but because your attention was taken. And that's exactly how it happens. The enemy doesn't always attack with destruction. Sometimes he uses distraction, because if he can keep you busy, if he can keep your mind full, if he can keep your soul occupied, he doesn't need to pull you away from God. You'll drift on your own. And today, we're going to expose the distractions that are quietly pulling you away from God without you even noticing. The first distraction is constant noise, not just physical noise, but mental noise. Because we live in a world that never goes silent. There's always something playing, always something scrolling, always something demanding your attention. Your phone, notifications, videos, messages, endless content, one after another. And none of it seems dangerous. That's the problem. Because distraction rarely looks like something harmful. It looks normal. It feels harmless. But what it's doing to your spirit is something most people don't realize. You can't hear God clearly when your life is constantly filled with noise. Not because He stopped speaking, but because there's no space left for you to listen. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for your phone? When was the last time you allowed your mind to slow down, to breathe, to be still? Because God often speaks in stillness. But if your life is always loud, if your attention is always divided, you start losing sensitivity to His voice, not all at once, but little by little, until one day you realize you don't feel Him the same way anymore. And it's not because He left, it's because the noise got louder than His presence. The second distraction is overthinking. This one is dangerous because it doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. You're not being distracted by noise. You're being distracted by your own thoughts, thinking and thinking and thinking, trying to figure everything out, trying to control every outcome, trying to understand what God is doing before He does it. And without realizing it, your mind becomes a battlefield. Because overthinking doesn't bring clarity, it brings confusion. The more you think, the more scenarios you create, the more doubts appear, the more fear starts to grow. And suddenly, you're no longer trusting God. You're trying to replace Him. You start depending on your logic, your timing, your understanding, instead of surrendering to His, and that creates distance. Not because God moved away, but because your focus shifted from faith to control. The truth is, not everything needs to be understood. Some things need to be trusted. But overthinking keeps your mind so busy, so overwhelmed, that you lose that simple, powerful connection with God. A connection that was never built on understanding, but on trust. The third distraction is busyness. Not sin, not rebellion. Just being constantly busy, always doing something, always working, always moving. Your schedule is full, your time is occupied, your days feel productive, but your spirit feels empty. And that's where many people get confused, because being busy feels responsible. It feels necessary, it even feels right. But there's a difference between being productive and being spiritually present. You can be doing everything right in life and still be distant from God, because busyness has a way of filling your time while quietly stealing your attention. You tell yourself, I'll pray later. I'll spend time with God when things slow down. I just need to get through this week. But that moment never comes. because there's always something else to do. And slowly, God becomes something you fit into your schedule, instead of the center of your life, not because you don't care, but because you're constantly occupied. And the truth is, the enemy doesn't need you to stop believing. He just needs to keep you busy enough to never go deeper, busy enough to never pause, busy enough to never sit in God's presence long enough to feel Him again. The fourth distraction is your comfort zone. This one is subtle because it feels good. It doesn't challenge you, it doesn't pressure you. It keeps you relaxed, entertained, satisfied, always consuming something, always looking for what feels easy, what feels pleasant, what doesn't require effort, and little by little, you get used to comfort. But here's the truth most people avoid. Growth rarely happens in comfort, and neither does spiritual depth. Because your relationship with God requires intention. It requires moments of sacrifice, moments of discipline, moments where you choose Him, even when you don't feel like it. But the comfort zone teaches the opposite. It teaches you to follow your feelings, to choose what's easier, to avoid what's uncomfortable. So instead of praying, you scroll. Instead of seeking God, you distract yourself. Instead of going deeper, you stay where it's safe. And over time, your spirit becomes passive, not dead, not gone, just unresponsive. Because comfort slowly replaces hunger. That desire you once had, that urgency to be close to God, starts fading. Not because God moved, but because comfort became your priority. And without even noticing, you stop pursuing Him. The fifth distraction is emotional exhaustion. This one doesn't look like distraction. It feels like weakness. It feels like heaviness. It feels like you just don't have the energy anymore. You're tired, not just physically, but emotionally. Tired of trying, tired of waiting, tired of dealing with everything going on in your life. And because of that, you stop seeking God the way you used to. Not because you don't care, not because you stopped believing, but because you feel drained. You try to pray, but your mind is exhausted. You try to focus, but your heart feels heavy. You try to connect, but it feels like nothing is happening. And slowly, distance starts to grow, not created by distraction in the obvious sense, but by depletion. Because when your soul is tired, even the things that once gave you life start to feel like effort. And this is where many people misunderstand themselves. They think, something is wrong with me. Maybe I'm not strong enough. Maybe I've lost my faith. But the truth is, you're not losing your faith, you're just overwhelmed. And in that state, distraction becomes an escape. Not something you choose consciously, but something you fall into, just to feel a little relief. Now look at all of this together. The noise, the overthinking, the busyness, the comfort, the exhaustion, different distractions, but the same effect. They don't destroy your faith instantly. They slowly disconnect you, piece by piece, moment by moment, until one day you don't feel the same anymore. Not because God changed, but because your attention did, and that's what makes distraction so dangerous. It doesn't look like something wrong. You're not doing anything bad. You're not walking away from God on purpose. You're just not fully present anymore. Your body is here, your life is moving, your routine continues, but your spirit feels distant, and deep down, you know it. You feel it in quiet moments. You notice it when you try to pray. You sense it when something inside you says, this isn't how it used to be. And the hardest part is, you can't always explain why, because nothing big happened. No major mistake, no dramatic fall, just small distractions that kept pulling your attention away again, and again, and again, until your focus shifted completely. And here's the truth most people never realize. You don't drift away from God overnight. You drift through distraction. And this is the moment you need to understand something. something that can change everything. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you. He just needs to distract you. Because if he can keep your mind busy, your schedule full, your attention divided, he doesn't have to fight your faith. He just has to slowly pull your focus away from God. And once your focus is gone, distance follows naturally. Not forced, not obvious, just gradual. You stop noticing God in your day. You stop feeling His presence the same way. You stop prioritizing what once mattered most. And all of it happens without a single dramatic moment. That's the strategy. Not destruction, distraction. Because distraction is quiet. It doesn't alarm you. It doesn't scare you. It keeps you comfortable, while slowly disconnecting you from the very source of your peace. But here's the truth. If distraction created the distance, then focus can restore the connection. God never moved. He never left. He never stopped being present. The only thing that changed was where your attention went. And the moment you bring it back, you'll realize something powerful. He was there the whole time. God, right now. I want to pray for the person watching this, the one who feels distant, but doesn't even know how it happened. Lord, you see their heart. You know they didn't walk away on purpose. You know they still care. You know they still believe. But somewhere along the way, they got distracted, life got loud, their mind got full, their heart got tired, and without even realizing it, they lost focus. But God, you never lost them. So right now, I ask you, quiet every noise around them, calm their thoughts, slow their spirit down, remove every distraction that has been pulling them away from you. Not with pressure, not with guilt, but with your presence. Remind them what it feels like to be close to you again. Restore their hunger, restore their sensitivity, restore their desire to seek you. And even if they don't feel strong right now, meet them where they are, in their room, in their thoughts, in this exact moment. Let them feel your peace again. Let them know they're not far from you. They were just distracted. And today, they're coming back. In Jesus' name, amen. If this message spoke to you, it's not a coincidence. Maybe this is the moment you've been needing, not to try harder, not to feel guilty, but simply to refocus. Because you were never too far from God. You were just distracted. And now, you're aware. Now you can choose differently. A little more silence, a little more presence, a little more intention. Not perfection, just direction. Step by step, moment by moment. Coming back to what truly matters. And remember this, God is not waiting for a perfect version of you. He's waiting for your attention. If this video helped you, take a moment to subscribe to the channel Grace Revealed, because this is a place where you'll be reminded again and again that God is still speaking, still guiding, and still reaching for you, even in the middle of your distractions. And if you know someone who's been feeling distant lately, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear today.